Thanks for joining us for the Speakers Practice Business Success Strategies interview. The aim of this 30-minute interview is to find out from highly successful experts approaches for building businesses. Each interview will be with a specialist in their field, either international or Australian business owners and entrepreneurs. Our guests will be discussing up-to-date methods and techniques that give ideas that you can implement and enjoy seeing the results. Our topic today is on-camera presenting for entrepreneurs, and we have a very special guest with us, Dan Cordle, executive film producer at the Film Practice, film director and Chekhov Film Project 2016 at the New York University, actor, guest lecturer, and much, much more. Dan Cordle's business, the Film Practice, enables actors to give authentic, powerful, present, and highly successful on-camera performances. Dan believes in a whole approach to performance training and are adept at working with both new and highly experienced performers in group and private coaching sessions. Hi, Dan.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, well, thanks. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thanks. Dan Cordle teaches on-camera performance, improvisation and acting. He was a faculty member at New York University's graduate acting program from 1992 to 2001 and returned to NYU in 2013 and 14 as the director of the Chekhov Film Project. Dan also teaches on-camera performance workshops at NYU's Experimental Theatre Wing and beginner through to advanced acting courses at Hunter College. Dan has taught workshops and classes in film acting, on-camera training for public speakers, and theatre games at such places such as Fairleigh Dickinson University, Dean College, Pittsburgh State College, Heroic Public Speaking, Alabama Shakespeare Festival, Chattahoochee Institute, Sedona Shakespeare Festival, Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival, and has coached groups and individuals across the USA. In addition to teaching, Dan has worked extensively as a director, photographer, and cinematographer. He's the director of the feature film Possession, as well as many other film, video, and live theatre productions. Dan began his artistic career as a conservatory-trained actor, attaining his BFA and MFA from the graduate acting program at NYU. He performed in New York Regional Theatre as well as in film and television productions for over 25 years. Wow, Dan, that is some resume there.
It's too long. I must be old.
You've been busy, I think. Look, it's such a pleasure to have you here with us, and video for today's business world is just so important, and we're just so looking forward to hearing your approaches and advice for how we can handle video ourselves, really.
Right.
So let's get started with the questions. And the first one is, why is it challenging to present to camera? We get so intimidated by this black box. Why is this, do you think?
I think there's several reasons. The first is that it's an unusual event for most people, even though cameras are ubiquitous now. People have an interesting relationship with the camera. And a lot of the people who are in business didn't grow up having, cell phones available to them and doing selfies and taking videos all the time.
Yeah.
For folks that are in the prime of their earning years, that's still a relatively new thing. But even to those who grew up with it, it's still a kind of an odd thing when you're on camera. One of the reasons for that is that there's this idea that the camera sees everything, not just the things that we want to share, but the things that we would rather not share.
Yes.
And if you were to walk around in your daily life and have that point of view when you met someone, anyone, that feeling of, oh my goodness, they're seeing right through me. You know, they're seeing what I want to show them, but they're also seeing everything I don't want to show them. It's as if I'm naked here, you know, talking to them on the street. That wouldn't be a great way to go about living. But sometimes when people are on camera, that's exactly how they feel. That's particularly true when people are looking into the camera. So it's a little strange. But the truth of it is that if you were to be on camera enough, those feelings would go away. Much in the same way as if we decided to become nudists and frequent nude beaches. The first couple of weeks might be a little daunting, but after a few months, we'd be like, "What the heck? Who cares?" So partly, it's just a matter of getting used to it, and the more you participate, the easier it gets. Eventually, you lose those feelings of self-consciousness, and you stop acting and being in a place where you're afraid of sharing who you are. So that would be the first thing. Probably the most primal reason. In particular, we're talking about video, but to an extent, we're also talking about still photography, because people also feel a little self-conscious when their photos are being taken. And the reasons are the same, but there's an additional interesting reason, which is that photography has a long history. And the history of motion pictures is actually, quite newer. And with video, it's even newer than that. And with photos, going back far enough, the exposure times on the plates that the photographers used were so long that you had to hold still and present one particular thing for, several seconds, sometimes a minute, or maybe even more. And so people got used to kind of like having this kind of stiff posture and presenting, right? And then letting it go and going on with their lives. So I think there's a little residue from that is actually carried over today to, to portraiture and also to video work. It's falling away now with the amount of selfies that people are taking and the amount of photos. But I think it still, to a small degree, persists.
So it is really it's a learned skill that presenting to camera. To a great extent, it's a learned skill because there are techniques that you can employ in doing it. Another part of it is learned as well, in as much as we learn how to operate socially. And we all carry around with us ideas of who we are and who other people are and the way that we relate to other people. And we're more or less successful at that, I think, and more or less happy in that. And being on camera has a way of bringing that right to the front. So in part, it's because you're not actually talking to a person. You're not looking in their eyes. It feels like a one-way communication, even though it's really not. It feels like you're speaking into a void. And then your ideas of what's in that void, fill in. You fill in those ideas of what is the void. And for many people, the void is full of their fears. It causes all sorts of problems.
Well, of course. It's the same void that children feel in the dark. It's like, what is this? And this is an unknown, and it's scary. So, when you realize that it's joyful, the darkness, as you do, in your teen years, it becomes a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
And the same is
Yeah.
true on camera. You know, once you enjoy yourself a few times, it becomes fun.
Yes. Yes. Well, let's have a look at the next question, which follows on from what you were saying. With all the equipment around to easily produce video now,
Mm-hmm.
business professionals and entrepreneurs think that they can speak to camera, never having really been in front of a camera or in a film studio. So, is it possible to get a good performance from just getting up and speaking to camera, or do you think there's more skills involved with it?
I think it's possible for some people to get in front of a camera and to be at ease.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's more related to who they are as people,
Right.
and the preparation that they've had off camera to be on camera.
Right.
For many people, it's not so easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have to say that I see lots of videos. And sometimes I see videos of people who have no preparation, and with a little work, they're wonderful in a very short amount of time. And other times, I see people who are very practiced, and they seem confident, but there isn't quite the depth of communication going on. You see that a lot with prepared deliveries when people are using a teleprompter.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't actually feel that they're talking to you. You feel that they're delivering. You can see the writing.
Yeah. Yes.
And in some cases, you can see them reading the writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when that happens, you have to almost get past what you're seeing visually to try to determine if what they have to say is of value to you.
Yeah.
So you're having to do all this interpretation and this seeking within what they've prepared and are delivering, having decided how they're going to deliver it, to see if it's of value to you.
Yes.
That's like going to buy a car and meeting a salesperson who gives you a pitch without talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You feel like you're being sold something. It may be something you want, but you have to kind of discern, and try to understand where they're coming from, since you're not having an interplay. It's a one-way communication.
Yeah.
So there you can see a problem, because that puts a barrier between the person who's doing the talking and the person who's doing the listening.
Yes.
It's not a relationship.
No.
It's something else.
Yeah.
And we all know what that's like.
Yes.
It's not the basis of a friendship.
No.
It could be the basis of a business arrangement, but I think there's an impediment there,
Yeah.
And so what I help people do is to be themselves and to have it be a communication and not this other thing.
Yeah.
I don't even have a term for it. I don't know what I would call it, and I don't want to diminish the importance of the work that those folks are doing or their intent.
Yeah.
But I believe in human communication. That's what
Yes, absolutely. Well, we've found that the auto cues help the process. Do you use auto cues, or you don't believe in?
What I do believe in cues. I do believe in using them if you need help remembering important points.
Yeah.
I like to keep things simple. So in the course of a normal conversation, and this is close to it, what we're actually having here is not far from a normal conversation. The distinction is that to look in your eyes, I need to look at the lens and to see what is going on between us. I need to look at your face, right? So what's actually normal with Skype is a combination of the two, right? Because I need to relate to both.
Yes.
If there's something I really want to, that I really need to convey to you.
Yes.
it's helpful for me to look at the lens. That's not a technique. That's simply human interaction.
Yeah.
If I need to see how the effect of that is, what's happening.
Yeah.
I want to look at you, right? Because
Yeah.
we're communicating. Right? So in life, if we were having a conversation, we would be looking in each other's eyes. But we wouldn't be locking eyes, right?
No.
Unless we were lovers, right?
No.
we would be talking like this and looking around, and
Yeah.
that's natural
Yes.
behavior, right?
Yeah.
So now that's what we do in life when we're being cued.
Yes.
We're talking, and then I think about this thing. Let me think about this book. What is it? Now, I'm not looking at you.
Yeah.
I'm cueing myself from memory.
Yeah.
Thinking, right. So I'm thinking about Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. All right.
Yeah.
So now I know, because we have a short amount of time together, and this video is, of a particular length, it has to be, that it's an interest of both of us that I remember these things within half an hour. Let's say.
Yeah.
So what I can do, as opposed to having, I'll just write it on a piece of paper, and I'll put it right beside my computer.
Yeah.
And I'll say, at some point, I'll go, oh yeah, that's right. I've got to talk about, this thing, and so I'll say, oh, and then I can talk about it.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I'll have, and what you can do is you can put these pieces of paper around your computer.
Yeah.
And then you just look at them, and you're like having this conversation, and you're like, oh yeah, there's this thing I need to say. Or if it's something a little bit more, if it needs to seem a little bit more prepared, it's a little, you practice it.
Yeah.
To the where it's like, oh, that's number 1, that's number 2, that's number 3, and that's number 4. And they all add up to this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if it's not a live conversation, and this is kind of a live one, you do takes until you have a flow. And then you look at your takes and you say, that's working. And you might have a second camera, which is getting another angle. And you're doing takes from there as well. And then you say, okay, well, the first part of take number 1 goes really well with this clip from take number 3, which then backs out to take number 2. And they all work together to tell a really nice delivery of what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Wow.
It makes it, that does require a little editing if you're not quite practiced enough to do it in one fell swoop.
Yes.
But that's how I handle these things. I try not to get caught up in too much, teleprompter and all that stuff. I find it gets to be a little bit excessive.
Yes.
For me. That's for me. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then this goes on very well. Combining using an auto cue and presenting naturally as well is a challenge, especially for business professionals who are not performers. Have you any tips there?
You have a great advantage to begin with. You're not a performer. You have a great advantage.
Oh, is that easier?
Well, there are advantages. That's what I'm going to say. Because you're starting from a place of being who you are. And that's what you want, even if you are a very practiced performer. You want to be you.
Yes.
And you want to be you in public. You want to share who you are publicly.
Yeah.
And the more you share who you are, the real you, the more likely it is that you will attract the attention of people who want to spend time with you.
Yeah.
Whereas some performers are good at performing a particular aspect of who they are and focusing on that. That's a very powerful thing to do because it enables you to hone in on a particular segment of your audience.
Right.
When people don't have that experience, they're able to be themselves.
Yeah.
They can. It's like going fishing, right, without a particular kind of fish in mind.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna be surprised by what you get, and will probably enjoy the experience. Yeah. And then, as you continue fishing, you become more sophisticated.
Right.
And you can start saying, okay, well, I need to, do this particular. I'm not a fisherman, so now I'm out of my depth.
Yeah. Wow.
And there's this. The more you practice,
Yeah.
the sooner you become adept at
A
performance.
bit used to the space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So our next question is, marketing with video is growing exponentially at the moment. What are the recommendations for getting a message out there, promoting products using video, and yet being natural and authentic, and building that trust that is really important all over a video? Is it possible?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I can talk about this with a caveat that I'm awful at marketing.
I don't know.
I have been working primarily up until last year. I've been working with actors, and it's only recently. It was last year when I spoke and taught at a conference, which was really for entrepreneurs, many of whom are marketers and writers, and that I was introduced, to that, to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And in this past year, I've been reading books that these people I was teaching have written, and learning different things that I had no idea of. So I just wanted to say that I'm not by any means a great marketer, at least not yet. But I have trained these people now.
Yes.
And they are beginning to use the training toward their own marketing efforts. Yeah. And what I've seen has been incredibly encouraging, because when they shared their videos with me that they had made prior to the training, they were kind of stiff, and I couldn't really tell who they were as people. And because of that, the videos didn't really capture my imagination. What I've noticed about entrepreneurship, at least in my little experience of working with entrepreneurs, is that as much as entrepreneurs are marketing their service or their product, they're also marketing themselves. And in fact, they seem to be mostly marketing themselves, or at least they're the face of their business. Yes. And so if you feel that you connect with them on a personal level, you also feel that you connect with their product on a personal level. Yeah. The two are one and the same. Yeah. And so it's helpful to connect with them. It's like someone has invited you to their house to spend time with them, and they've cooked you a lasagna. And you look at that lasagna and you look at them, and they merge into this wonderful experience. And you want to come back. Yeah. And you want to have them over to your house, right? Yeah. For your chicken pot pie. Yeah. What did you make, right? So if you think about it, why would an entrepreneur want to make a video that they're in, which is anything less than who they are on the best possible day? Yeah. Yeah. They wouldn't. So the kind of training that I've done for these folks has been great, because it's enabled them to do that, to truly share who they are on the best possible day, and to make deeper connections with the clients that they have, and attract new clients who'd like to know who they are.
And so how did you do that? Or is it that's a top secret thing? Or but how is it a matter of helping people just to be comfortable in front of the camera, be themselves, or is there skills, video filming skills, or
what I did was I applied some of the training that I do for actors in improvisation for the camera, some cross training with some acting techniques that are more exploratory. And then I combined what I know from directing on camera and from interpreting, what I see on camera. And I developed a personal relationship with them.
Yeah.
I encourage them to increase their definition of who they are as people and to share that, which is one of my approaches with actors. Spend time with them. We did a workshop, person, and then we did months of work together remotely on camera.
Wow.
And that's how it happened.
Yeah.
Daily videos, feedback, and sessions where we got together online and talked, and it's been wonderful.
Oh yeah.
I truly enjoyed it.
Yeah. So it really is. It is a part of it's a matter of actually getting used to the new technology, or getting used to the process, and just getting comfortable with the process.
Sure, that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
They say it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert.
Yes.
Anything.
Yeah.
But that sometimes when people hear that, they think, "Oh no,
it's too low.
An hour.
Never gonna happen.
Am I gonna?
Yeah.
But it's one step at a time.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's completely about the process and not about the end results.
Yeah.
Every time you get on camera, you get a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more practiced, and then you start. You can get training to learn a few techniques that will even make that more enjoyable and more effective. And you pick up things as you go, and it happens. It just happens by itself. And pretty soon, you feel pretty darn good. I suspect this thing about the 10,000 hours, it's not a breaking point. It's not that life sucks and then 10,000 hours, it's beautiful.
No.
I think it's like you sweep up, and then the improvements are tiny, 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 until you kind of plateau at 10,000. But I think that, the most exciting time in some ways is the beginning, when it's new and you're really charging up the mountain, So, I hope I answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. There's a book that I've read recently called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And it's all about incremental steps, little baby steps every day, doing those little steps, and then eventually you see where how much you've achieved. It also actually works in reverse if you don't do something. But it's that incremental routine, putting in a disciplined routine, and or just doing something time and time again that helps build the confidence and gets you there. So thank you. Well, the fifth question that I ask all our guests, Dan, is what is the strategy that's really helped you grow your business?
The strategy, okay. That implies that I have a strategy.
Yes. There's got to be one there somewhere. You've got pages of accolades.
Now I can either pretend I have a strategy, or else I can admit that it's kind of I kind of do things intuitively. So here's all I can really say about that. Is that as I said before, I'm learning about the things that are necessary to know to be successful in business. I'm coming to this as a teacher and as an actor and as a word of mouth kind of person. But the way I like to operate is to be. Now this is more of a philosophical answer. I'm sorry, but the way I like to operate is to be kind and hospitable and generous, and to spend time with like-minded people.
Yeah.
To spend time with like-minded people.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about, like the most of the actor training that I've done has been at university, and I've also worked with people. I've been contracted,
Yep.
to come and teach people.
Yeah.
And I started this group, the Film Practice, with the intention of helping actors. The idea initially was to help new actors who didn't have any place to go. And I was curious to see if I could train people with no training and make them great on camera.
Yeah.
And found out I could. And then when I started working with speakers, I didn't have, and still don't have, like a platform for that. So they were kind of coming through the Film Practice. Now I'm trying to get together a website and some kind of a what they call a landing page. It's very interesting. This mystical thing. It's like I feel like I have a lunar lander that is going to. It's some kind of a thing, but I'm trying to get this together so that I can say, oh, if you're interested in this training that I'm doing, like the one I did for these entrepreneurs, go here and then you can learn about it. Yeah. I don't have an email list yet. This has now become a confessional. but I'm working on it, right? And I'm so it has been for me very much a personal exercise, getting to know people, as we've gotten to know each other, and spending time with them. That's so far. Talk to me in a year and I might have a better answer.
Well, Michael Port says that it's all about building the relationships and building trust, and that's really what you were talking about, is that you just you get to know people and they get to know you and they get to understand what you do, and then the business just follows when the time's right. So
right.
Well, it's fantastic. Thank you. So, Dan, would you like to introduce the Film Practice, which you have a bit, but you might like to have tell us about any promotions you have, or just about what you're looking at doing, or
yes. The two next things that I'm doing is I'm doing an online, I don't want to call it a course, it's kind of a process or a workshop, where I work with small groups from between 4 and 8 people. And we do the kind of work on video that I did with those entrepreneurs, the same process, where we're making a video for each other each day, and I'm giving feedback and lighting tutorials and making video tutorials, and then have weekly Skype meetings with them, to chat, and we have group meetings, and to do that over periods of a month, where we do like a solid month, 7-day-a-week thing. So that's something that I'm planning on doing on a continuing basis, and then I'm also going to be doing these live workshops for intimate groups, so that everyone has a chance to really spend time on camera, and where we can develop with a very small group of people, between, I would say, 10, and 16, over a 3-day period, to not only work on camera, but also potentially to have some content come out of it, so that we've actually shot, and folks can walk away with something. Those two trainings really go hand in hand. Because if you spend the first component doing live work, and you follow that right up with this more intensive workshop where you're in the room together, you're in a position to make some great things happen on camera. Because then you're on a set, and you have people who you've been talking to. There's a great deal of comfort. and you can do interview style videos as well as to camera, and it feels incredibly natural. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm doing and
Wow.
planning at the moment.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm thinking up new things.
Oh, yes. It's that's the world of the entrepreneur. I think
Yeah,
that's
I think
always,
that, yeah.
always coming up with these great ideas.
I don't, I'm thinking that this will be like its own branch away from the film practice.
Yeah.
I've got a website, URL, URL, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
very mysterious. Anyway, it's for my name, for Dan
Yeah.
Cordle.
Right.
So hopefully sometime soon,
Yeah.
there'll be dancordle.com
Right.
and this other, and that'll be a way that for people to learn a little bit more about what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dan, for your time and our discussion today. It's really been fantastic to hear your approaches and recommendations, and it really has been a wonderful discussion on video and the things that are important with video, and how to be natural and the importance of being natural in front of the video. So thank you so much, and
it was great spending time.
Okay, thanks, and thank you to our listeners for being here.